starting with you.
If I may comment first and then ask a question. My family moved from the Northeast to Alabama in the 80s, and there is a Mobile, Alabama, and there is a public university there, and with a lot of students of Middle Eastern descent now, whether they're first generation or second generation, I do not know. But it became known that at the time of 9/11, there was a group of students within a public campus place that loudly cheered when the Twin Towers came down. And people became very interested in whether or not within these communities, apartment complexes of all Muslim people, women in dress, I don't know exactly how to call. And sort of within church communities, people wanted to start talking about this issue because I guess it was more comfortable for people to talk about it within churches than within government for, I guess, political correctness or whatever. Anyway, it became clear that there were even mainline Protestant denominations in the name of humanitarian efforts that had been giving money to Hamas. And some of those mainline denominations are splitting up, at least in my parents' hometown. Right? My question is, when we're talking about separating church and state, and we certainly want to honor people's belief, how, in any way, can we prove or separate? I mean, how practically can that even? How can that even happen in a country like ours, which was based on a completely different orientation of respect for individual life?
Could anybody hear that question?
No.
I know you can because you're hard of hearing, but could anybody else in the back of the room? I'll repeat it anyway, but I can't do it justice. It's an extraordinarily good question following a comment that was also very insightful.
The comment was probably too long.
No. Let me try to get both. The comment was that from your experience in Mobile, Alabama, when the Twin Towers came down, there were students on campus at a local university cheering. And that religious communities in that area seem to be being, well, my word, not yours, suborned by those who are insisting, in the name of interfaith dialogue, that they not be critical, or maybe even worse, that they be supportive of some of those who, like Hamas, are perpetrating this kind of jihad. And then the question was, given the character of our country, I think of it as kind of our political DNA, is there anything you can do about this problem? This religious problem that poses such a threat to us, without violating our fundamental First Amendment tenet that we are a country that respects religious freedom? Again, excellent question. Thank you. I don't know the school you're speaking of, but it would not surprise me at all if it had a Muslim Students Association chapter on campus, and that students who were cheering were associated with that chapter. Why is that important? Because the Muslim Students Association was the first Muslim Brotherhood front organization established in the United States back in 1963. By some estimates, it has 500 chapters on American campuses now. This is a fun fact. Several of you were with us at lunch upstairs, as a matter of fact, when Andy McCarthy, who's our speaker, observed that Mohammed Morsi, the man we were just talking about in connection with Egypt, the president, Muslim Brotherhood leader, actually became a Muslim brother at the USC Muslim Students Association chapter in Southern California. So that's part of the infrastructure I was alluding to when I talked about the fact that we've got this civilization jihad underway now for, what is it, 50 years. That's a problem. One aspect, and I could go into this at great length if you'd like me to, but one aspect of the civilization jihad that I consider to be particularly toxic is what you alluded to, which is that in the spirit of interfaith dialogue, our churches, many of them, synagogues, some of them, other Buddhist temples and what have you, have become enablers of the civilization jihad to the extent that they believe either that it's just in its own right a good to be ecumenical, or maybe more calculatingly, that if people who are hostile to one person's faith aren't challenged, well, their faith may be next. But whatever the reason, these people are being duped. And what makes this so insidious is they are influential in their communities as a general rule. Nothing is more important, arguably, politically, than seeing this array of clerics standing shoulder to shoulder to defend the rights of Islamists to practice their stealth jihad in America. It has the effect, when those guys say, and they inevitably do, you are a racist and a bigot and an Islamophobe for saying anything, even the truth, about the practice of my kind of jihad. And we, of the Christian faith or the Jewish faith, are going to stand shoulder to shoulder and join them in calling you a racist and a bigot and an Islamophobe. I mean, that's scary for a politician particularly. I'm getting to the nub of the matter. This brings us to what I consider to be the only real hope we have as a society of contending with this phenomenon. A group that we helped convene called Team B2 in 2010 put together a book, which I wish I'd had the presence of mind to make available, but you can actually get it for free online, called Shariah, the Threat to America. And Shariah, the Threat to America, has at its core this one insight, which I really, if I leave you with nothing else, it would be this: that Shariah, this comprehensive, totalitarian, brutally repressive, political, military, intelligence, legal doctrine, or ideology, or program, whatever you want to call it, is about power, not about faith. And yes, there's a patina of religiosity. You know, how many times do you have to pray? Which direction do you pray? What do you say when you pray? What do you wash when you pray? What do you eat? What do you don't eat? When don't you eat? And so on. That's definitely part of it. It's, by some estimates, 10% of the larger Sharia comprehensive program for governing all aspects of life. And again, don't take my word for this. The authoritative rendering, the single most accessible, authoritative rendering of what Sharia actually is a thick book called Reliance of the Traveler. You get it?